All right, welcome back to our December podcast. We're super excited to have you back. We have a lot of great tips for you guys this month. So today we're going to be focusing on tips for final season. We're nearing the end of the semester, which means final exams. And especially if you're coming into high school or college, finals can be very daunting. So we're going to help you with some tips to help consolidate your studying and make the most out of your time. We also have an interview with Jessica Wilson. She is an architectural engineering student here at UC, and she's got a lot of amazing information to tell you guys about architectural engineering. So stay tuned. Okay, so our first thing we're going to be talking about this month is finals tips. So one of our biggest tips we have for you guys is to prioritize your classes. So if there's a class that you're struggling in, definitely study for that one first. Or if you know that you have a final exam that's worth a larger percentage of your grade, say in chemistry you have an exam worth half of your grade, and in math you have an exam worth 20% of your grade. Definitely prioritize your chemistry exam and make sure that you're spending enough time to make sure you know all the material. Another way to prioritize is to make a schedule of your week's finals and definitely start with your earliest finals, study the most for that, and as the week progresses of finals, continue to follow up and study for those exams that you have later on in the week.
Yeah, and then another tip is to manage your study time with relaxed time. So make sure you're eating normally and you keep with your schedule as much as possible. It'll kind of help just keep your life balanced during the stressful times of finals. And intermittent studying is actually better. Everyone always says that if you study in small chunks rather than for continuous hours on end, that you'll be able to concentrate and remember things better. So that's a good tip to keep in the back of your mind when studying. And then another tip is to study early, which Callie kind of touched on, and manage your time as best you can between not only studying, between all your other classes and maybe some final projects you might have. Just starting to study early and work on these projects early will help reduce any last-minute stress.
Yeah, definitely. So if you guys are new to our podcast as well, we also made a study skills video back in August. So if you're looking for some more in-depth study tips on how to prioritize your studying, be sure to check out that video.
Yeah, and then along with that, definitely ask for help if you need it. Ask your professors, ask your TAs if your class has TAs, friends in your class, or just people you may know. Going to review sessions will be very helpful. A lot of professors have review sessions and they want students to come and ask questions or just listen to what they have. You never know what they might share during these review sessions that might help you for the finals. Since they're making the test, they'll probably be able to help you the most. So, and along with that, the Learning Commons has a lot of useful study sessions and one-on-one tutoring that you can sign up for. So that's definitely very helpful if there's a few particular classes that you're struggling with. These tutors really know how to pinpoint what you're struggling with and help you with those.
For sure. Definitely be sure to reach out to your professors. They're there to help you. And always, make sure to ask for help whenever you need it. There's no shame in asking for help. Another thing you can do is to make kind of like a big overview study guide of everything you've learned in the semester. So one thing I personally like to do is I like to kind of write down the main topics or like the chapters we've covered in a semester and then go through myself without looking in the book, without any reference, and write down everything that I can remember about those. And then I'll work off of that study guide to kind of create and fill in everything else that I need to know. And then at the end, I have a really nice study guide to go off of. So definitely, if you're looking for a new tip, I suggest trying that out. If not, that is totally fine too. Another thing to remember when studying for finals is you're going to get stressed out. It's kind of inevitable. Just make sure that you take time for yourself and make sure when you're experiencing these emotions to, remind yourself that you are worth more than your grades. You are worth more than your GPA. It's okay to get emotional, but make sure that you are reaching out if you need professional help or you're talking to a close friend or family member to kind of help you de-stress through these times and really realize what's truly important.
All right, guys, so today we have an interview with an architectural engineering student at UC. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. I'm Jessica Wilson. I'm a second year in architectural engineering at UC.
Perfect. So can you just give us a broad, what is architectural engineering and what are some of the classes that you take as a student in architectural engineering?
Sure. So architectural engineering is actually a pretty unique major. One thing I like to call it is it's essentially bridging the gap between architecture and engineering. As time has moved on, the two concepts have really divided, but I chose this as something where you can really combine both architecture and engineering and make it more fluid. So the four big sections of architectural engineering are really something called mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, or MEP for short. And then there's also the construction side as well as structural, and then design is really, the architecture side of it. Now with architectural engineering, one thing is it's essentially, everything to do with the building, from the putting up the columns all the way to adding in the lighting. But the great thing with architectural engineering is it's capable of so much more. And if, you're wondering kind of what career goes into it, it's really like architects with civil engineers with construction managers. And then kind of the classes you take, one thing I'd really like to stress is it's a lot of math and physics. There are also a bunch of design classes which will help you learn things like Revit, AutoCAD, and SketchUp, which are pretty much 3D modeling softwares. And then you get to learn about different systems like lighting systems, plumbing, and HVAC. And then one thing that's really great is you learn how to work with teams. Some examples of classes, are obviously your basic physics, but there's also like principles of HVAC, there's a lot of statics, a lot of studio design classes too.
Awesome. That was so much information. Thank you. So what are some of the co-op positions that different architectural engineering students tend to hold?
So as I said before, there are pretty much four main topics in architectural engineering. So you could actually go and work for an architecture firm and, be part of the design, pre-design process. You can also be a part of a construction company. So they're really in charge of making sure the whole project goes through and that the building actually gets built. You can also be part of the structural team. And then there are also, a lot of companies that work mainly with mechanics, electrical, and plumbing. One really cool thing, as I said before, is that it's mainly buildings, but it's capable of more. So I'm actually going to be starting my first co-op with a company called Moss, and I will be working on their solar division. So it's, they have buildings, but I'll actually be working on solar farms, and it's a combination of design and construction.
Awesome. Thank you. What is one of the favorite parts of your major?
Definitely learning the ins and outs of how a building works. People are always, fascinated. Oh, that's, a really cool building. And I feel the same way. Like, it'll look cool. But one thing I'm really amazed is, like, how it can still work. Like, if you have something like a building on the edge of a cliff, but how does it stay there? That's what really fascinates me.
Yeah, I agree. I actually sometimes think about that myself. So, final question, what is some advice that you would give your freshman self?
So with architectural engineering and pretty much any engineering or STEM major, it's a lot of work. And one thing I wish I did more with my first year is just going out more and just, checking out the town and hanging out with friends a lot more often. Because, there's always time to study and do work, but you definitely have to savor the whole college experience and reach out to people outside of your major and really just have more fun.
Amazing. Thank you so much for all of your great advice. I know all of our listeners will learn a lot from it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us this month, and thank you to Jessica for letting us interview you. As always, if you have any questions or suggestions for topics in the future, feel free to reach out to us through our email, which is on the video or our social media pages. So we'll be taking a short break during January, but make sure to tune back in February for our next podcast. Thank you.